Alright, so once you've saved your Loftwing, you just skip the cutscene, mash down on the D-pad to call your Loftwing as fast as possible, and then we'll get into the fast Loftwing tutorial. I'm not going to really explain why this trick that we're about to do works, I'm just going to be explaining what the inputs are for it. There's a link in the description to more information on how exactly it works. So Zelda's going to have these 5 text boxes that come up. There's the first one, then a small break, then 3 more, then another small break, and then the final one, at least on the English language. I do not know what the sequence is like on other languages, but as far as I know, this trick works on all tested languages. So basically what you want to do is you want to have the Crimson Loftwing here perform a flap motion as this last text box is being cancelled, right? And you'll notice that when this happens, the Loftwing controls text box that normally comes up is going to get delayed until this flap is over, which is what we want to have happen, right? So just like that. So this can be a little bit tricky if you're on button controls. On motion controls, this is pretty easy and has like a pretty big frame window because the controls for canceling a text box and doing the flapping motion are different from one another. But on button controls, the timing for this is pretty precise. You need to cancel this text box and then about a quarter of a second later press the A button to perform a flap for this to work correctly, right? Because of the fact that the controls for canceling a text box are the A and B buttons, and they obviously don't want to like restrict the A button to only flapping and only have you be able to cancel the text box with the B button here. So just know that the timing for this on button controls is pretty precise. And with button controls, if you try to time the flap after closing the text box, but Link or the Loftwing doesn't flap, then your A press was too early. If you try to time the flap and Link does successfully flap, but the control text box is not delayed, then your flap was too late. So you can use those two cues to narrow down what the proper timing should be, right? So once that happens, this Loftwing controls text box will finally come up after the flap is over. You do not want to flap anymore during the first part of the Loftwing tutorial right now, right? So you just basically want to steer around a little bit by going either left or right to fulfill like the steer control here that the game wants you to do. And then you're just going to wait for a little bit. Again, don't flap or ascend anymore, so just keep on going like this. And then eventually Zelda's text is going to interrupt that control text box. You want to cancel this text as fast as you possibly can, right? So, right before it comes up, begin mashing that B button to get through it as fast as possible here, right? And then when that happens, if you do it correctly, you should see the first part of the Loftwing controls text box come up here very briefly, and then it'll go away and be replaced by the second one, which means that this trick has been done correctly. At this point, you should go ahead and continue with like what the Part 2 control text box tells you to do, just in case, for whatever reason, the fast Loftwing tutorial doesn't work. So perform a charge attack and then slow down a little bit to satisfy these requirements. Because for some reason, this trick just doesn't seem to work sometimes. I'm not entirely sure why that happens, but once we have more concrete information on that, this video of the tutorial will probably be replaced to tell you what not to do to make it so it doesn't work. Because sometimes it just doesn't work, and we don't really know why, but when it does work, Zelda will basically just interrupt you about 10 seconds sooner to get out of the Loftwing tutorial here. So, hope you guys have success with that.